One. Boom! All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy MLK Day. That's when we're recording this right here. We got a captivating show for you guys. We're going to explore our guest's journey, his passion for equitable real estate, and the transformative power of emerging technologies. So let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone, because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We got a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, and the visionary behind VSN Group and rndr. I'm gonna find out what that's all about. He's here to share his journey and insight on using cutting-edge technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality to transform the world of real estate and architecture. We're going to dive into his mission to create equitable, and community-centered real estate developments. Whether you're a business visionary, an architect, a real estate developer, or simply curious about the impact of emerging tech in this field, you're in for an eye-opening discussion. So let's get this one started. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nate Robert-Eze. All right,
Love
Nate,
it.
the party has begun, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. What's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, dude. It's Monday. I'm ready to rock and roll. I took a couple weeks off. I usually do that towards the end of the year. You're technically the first show back after the break, so I got all kinds of energy, man. I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's do this.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let me start off with the first question I always ask, man. Everybody who comes on the show is here to promote something, to sell something. It's something that they're doing to make a living. What is that for you?
So for me, I own a company called VSN Group. We offer a range of services to real estate development companies, basically bringing their vision to life. So anywhere from 3D renderings, 3D animation, fly-throughs, walkthroughs, any of that stuff. And we also have an app that allows for you to walk through any property anywhere in the world on any device. So we use augmented reality to do that.
Ooh, that's fire. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. When I read and wrote your bio, virtual reality and augmented reality for real estate, my license is with EXP, so you know I'm
you're in there.
Sure, I'm in that space a little bit, not so much these days, but still a little bit. But the first thing that popped into my mind was like Free Guy. Like if you watch the movie Free Guy, you put the glasses on, you got this augmented reality. You don't actually have to go there, but you could be there. Exactly. Like that's dope to me.
Yeah.
So who is this target audience for you? Like who's going to benefit from your product or service?
I like to say visionary real estate developers. So people who have that vision, they can see that thing, but they just, for some reason, they have a hard time getting it, in the 3D space or getting it out of their head, right? So we can help them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if I could see what I'm investing in as far as, for the developer, I think a lot of them have a decent vision of what they want to build. But if most developers don't have the cash all themselves, they go out and they acquire cash from other investors. So they pull this money together. And if you can show somebody a vision, it's much easier to get that money coming in the door than if you just go, hey, dude, we're going to put together this building. It's going to be awesome. But nobody can see what you see in your mind. Tell me a little bit about your background. What's your education like? How'd you get into this space?
Good question, man. So my family moved here when I was 2 years old from Nigeria. So we moved here in 1997. And so from there, I went to public schools. I played a little bit of basketball. I was always kind of like a creative. So I would be in church, like drawing on those envelopes, the church envelopes and stuff like that. And so I always loved architecture. I always loved creating stuff. And then, I thought I was going to be in the NBA. That didn't happen, obviously, but I still love design. So I went to school for architecture. I had a mentor at the time, actually, who was just this amazing, cool guy. So he would come pick me up in his Benz. We would go to his office, see people working in there. It was just so dope. It was so dope to see his lifestyle. So I was like, yeah, I want that. So then I went to college for architecture, and then I pivoted because architecture was a little too technical for me. And I was more interested in the big picture, right? So got into urban planning and real estate development, graduated with that degree, and then got a degree in urban design. And then from there, I worked for a few architecture and urban design firms. Start to realize that I wanted to be more on the real estate side because I realized that's where a lot of the decision making is happening. And I was always pretty obsessed with technology, pretty obsessed with visualization, just bringing stuff to life. And so I jumped. I took my entrepreneurial leap and started what was formerly called Render Vision. And then I've now rebranded it to the Vision Group, which holds the software and then the rendering company and then a few other companies. So that's kind of like my process.
All right, so you go to college, and like most people, you don't know what the hell you're doing there. You're just kind of figuring it out as you go. I'm like you, dude. I thought I was gonna play in the show. I thought baseball was my career, and it didn't happen.
Nah.
So okay, reality sets in. Luckily for you, you had a cool mentor, and I think that's
Yeah.
huge because not only are you learning from what they are, but I think probably the most inspiring thing is being able to see that lifestyle. And I think that's really what, like, you didn't know for sure if you're going to follow the exact same footsteps as that
Right.
person, but you knew what that vision was going to look like. You're like, I'm going to be driving that car. I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
having that house. I'm going to have those commas in my bank
Yep.
account. And you knew exactly where you're going, right? But
Yeah.
then you decided to become an entrepreneur. That's not always the easiest path forward, man. Walk me through that. What was it like becoming an entrepreneur?
So it's interesting. I love that question because the first year, right, I started a company. I was still working a job. So I think we were making about 2 grand a month, something like that. Like, and I thought I was on top of the world, because we're bringing in these clients, we're doing a little bit of outbound marketing and, reaching outreach to people on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and actually getting a few projects. And then, I'm like, I was on a high horse. I'm like, okay, if I do this full time, I'm going to kill it. And then when I made my leap, we actually hit some traction. So I think we went from like 50 grand to like 200, in 1 year. And then it started to set in, the fatigue of being an entrepreneur, having to kind of eat what you kill type deal. That really, really started to, bring in that fatigue. And then so that's when I started having to bring on a team. I was working like 16 to 18-hour days and stuff like that. It was brutal. Then the real estate market started to take a little turn. But then when I started building that team, that's when things started getting a little easier. I started delegating some tasks. I started building some marketing systems. I started building some, internal production systems and just streamlining our process. And in that process, I learned to focus more on the who than the what. So I started focus on real estate developers and what they need to really bring their projects to life, start understanding their process, understanding where we would come in and how we could help the best. So that's when things started to take a turn for the better.
Yeah, that's entrepreneurship spotlight doesn't seem so cool when you're in it. I don't think people quite realize some of those lonely times, some of that stress, some of the depression that goes in with it. And it's not that the entrepreneurship journey sucks. It's just there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot you
Exactly.
assumed was going to go away, you was going to go, and the
Yeah.
reality is it doesn't always pan out that way. So
Yeah.
you went through it, right? You went through, I made a lot of money. It was cool. But then I realized I was working too much. I had to start developing some SOPs, bringing people in, putting them in the right seats, all that stuff. If you were going to talk to somebody today that was just getting started, maybe they're like, you know what, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and they got all that glimmer and glam in their eyes. What advice would you give them
Yeah.
now with the experience that you've had
Yeah.
to help them kind of maybe not step in the same holes or make the
Yeah.
same mistakes? What advice would you give them?
That's a good question. So I read a book called The E-Myth. That's when things really started to turn around. I don't know if you've heard of that book.
Michael Gerber, baby. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So there's a book called The E-Myth, and it talks about pretty much the person who does the thing, the person on their high horse at their job, saying, my boss is taking advantage of me. I'm too good at this, and then they go start their own thing because they're good at the thing, right? But they're not necessarily good at business and setting up a business, right? So I would suggest definitely read that book. But I would suggest also understanding what you are good at, right? What are the functions in your business that you absolutely should be doing that is going to bring the most revenue to the company as possible? Anything else that you're not necessarily too great at, of course, you take time to get better at those things so you can bring on people that are better than you, right? But anything that you're not that great at, I would tell you to go ahead and start outsourcing, when that time comes, right? So let's say, for instance, right, you're good at sales, you're good at selling the thing you have, right? If you talk to somebody, you can sell them 90% closing rate, whatever. But you're not good at marketing. You're not good at getting your stuff out there. I would say learn marketing up to a certain point until you have the revenue to go ahead and hire someone to help you with your marketing, right? And then once you get to that point, you just keep scaling and scaling. And then you can bring in someone from a sales standpoint to take some of those sales meetings as well whenever you get to a point where you've scaled. So it's all about finding out what your weaknesses are, bringing in other people that can fill in those gaps, and then kind of going from there.
We all in life in general, we make mistakes, man. And I heard somebody one time on the show tell me that they don't make mistakes, they just learn lessons. And I thought that was kind of
Mm.
interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that when shit goes wrong, it still hurts, right?
It's on
Like,
you. Yeah.
it still hurts regardless.
Yeah.
But those lessons, those mistakes definitely help shape either a process, a procedure, or the way you think about it, or perspective of what you do in your business. What are some of those lessons that you've learned? Some of the things that you've learned from doing this for a while, some of those big mistakes, some of those scars maybe that you wear, but now wear them proudly because they got you to where you are today.
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest lessons I've learned is the things that you ignore are the things that come and bite you in the ass in the long run. So I've learned to lean into like pressure, lean into like problems. Like if there's something broken in our system, I will dive right in and start, trying to handle that problem to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we build a sustainable system to where, that thing does not come up again as much as I can, at least. But most times, what happens when conflict comes up, maybe one of your vendors threatens to leave. Like we've had clients who, before who have like said, okay, we have other people with a lower price. We want to go that way, and I'm faced with having to call them and say, look, this is what we can do. Let's come up with a deal, as opposed to just letting it sit for a while and letting them think on it and stuff like that. You got to handle that stuff head on. Trust me, I've done it the opposite way to where you kind of let it linger for a while. Not what you want to do. So that's one of my biggest lessons in business.
Yeah, we can't be like an ostrich, man. Like the problem shows up, ducking your head and avoiding, pretending it doesn't exist is not
Yeah.
gonna make the problem go away. In
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, at least as a business owner, in my experience so far, it's nothing but putting out fires. Like there's
Yeah.
always something going
Every day.
wrong. But that's the cool thing, is that the problem is not a problem for most entrepreneurs. They see it as an opportunity to fix something, an opportunity to adjust
Absolutely.
it so that it doesn't happen anymore, so that somebody else can kind of take it over, so that whatever the situation is, that's kind of the idea. That's the grueling work of a business owner that I don't think we really talk about as much. Everybody wants to see the fancy cars, nice clothes, and all that
Right.
stuff, but it gets there through the process of fixing a lot of these things. Walk me
Absolutely.
through like a case study. I always like stories. I always heard that saying that facts tell, stories sell, right? So walk me
Yeah.
through an example maybe of work that you were doing for a client, where maybe you had to overcome something, or maybe you showed them something really amazing that you guys were able to do that kind of shows how great it is that you, for great it is of the service that you do for your clients.
Man, I can think of one offhand. So um, there's a church called Elizabeth Baptist Church. Now, they aren't a real estate developer. However, they owned a piece of land close to the church. So they came to us saying, hey, we want to put together an animation video of what this is going to look like when it's built, right? So they can show it and do a fundraiser capital campaign for the church. Um, so it took us about 5 days to do. So this is like totally unconventional for us. They told us they wanted it done in 5 days. I accepted the project, just wanting to push our limits, thinking that, hey, if anything, we can have it done in 5 days and or 6 days, and we'll do it, right? And so we finished it in 4 days, right? First of all, we delivered it to them. They were able to have another day to actually have their technology team put together a video, like stitch together like them talking and all that stuff, voiceover and all that stuff within one day. And then something told me, just go to the church, because I live in Charlotte. The church is actually in Atlanta. It's a pretty big kind of mega church in Atlanta. So I drive over there just thinking like, man, like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm in the car right now, because I don't usually see our projects, be presented typically, because we work on projects all over the country. And so I went there and I'm sitting in the crowd. First of all, the pastor was like, shout out to Nate, this and that. So that was pretty cool. Like, to be appreciated for your work, it was a dope moment. But then what happened, this is the crazy part, right? So they have 3 services, and they showed the animation video in all 3 services. I watched them, I streamed them online. And the one that I was at was the last one. So they streamed it at this service. I'm hearing people chattering. This is before he said anything. I'm hearing people chattering like, "Oh, I want to go there." Like, they're thinking it's real. Like, it's crazy. So and then when they finally said this is an animation, like, this is what we're raising, people were like, "Wow, like that's amazing," stuff like that. And then after the service, right, I go back to meet the pastor and meet the guy who connected us, and come to find out they raised $1 million. They raised like 900 and something $1,000 that day, like in one
Cool.
day. Yeah, it was crazy. So that I would say is one of our bigger case studies. We've helped people raise more money, but I would say that was really purposeful. Like, I felt a good sense of like purpose and just like fulfillment out of doing that project. So it's an awesome one.
Yeah, no, and that's really, at the end of the day, that's what this rendering type stuff, I mean, being able to see it, it's what it's all about for a developer. It's to
Oh
raise
yeah,
that capital so that you can make that idea, that virtual augmented reality thing that you created into actual reality, where people can walk into
absolutely.
that building that was in mind, right? That's the
Yeah.
idea there. So let me ask you about the augmented and the virtual reality experience of it. Walk me through that, dude. I mean, what's that like? What's the experience like when they're presenting something like that? I mean, I can visually see one that you create on a TV. I think we can all kind of see that. It's kind of like that
Mhm.
HDMI type, or
Yep.
HDMI, HGTV type thing, where
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
see it on a screen. But augmented reality or virtual reality, that's a whole different ball game, dude. Walk me through
Yeah.
that.
So you're basically immersed in it. So our app allows you, like I said, to view any property in the world on any device, right? So you have the iPhone app to where you can literally, quite literally, scan the ground and understands, because every phone after like 2015 has like this LiDAR camera in it. So it can understand space, right? It can understand like it has spatial awareness. So you scan the ground and you're literally walking around as if you're there. But then we also have the Oculus app. That's when it really gets trippy. Like, because once you put the Oculus on, it's literally immersed all around you. So we just did a project in Canada for this company called Stratton Homes, and I put on the Oculus 3, like the new ones, and I was totally amazed. Like, keep in mind, I do this every day. Like, I'm looking at this stuff literally every day. And I put the Oculus on and I'm looking at the home like in front of me, and it was just ridiculous. Because the sense of scale, like, it's literally like you're standing in front of a home, is ridiculous. It's ridiculously immersive and realistic.
Let me ask you, dude. I mean, you're in the development space, but I just feel like this is where the world is heading. We have those
It
360
is.
cameras, right, where you can walk through and, like, those I don't want, what are they called? The tours where you can, the virtual tours that you can go
Virtual
with a
tours.
real
Yeah.
estate agent. You just kind
Matterport.
of click on the next dot. It's kind of like
Yep.
like the Google Earth type thing for the
Yep.
inside of
The
the home.
Matterport.
The
Mhm.
Matterport. There you go. That's the one I was thinking about. But what you're talking about is almost a little bit different. It's cool to be able to walk through a room. It's different to be in the room. And I
Exactly.
mean, I can
Yeah.
imagine showing 6 properties without ever leaving my office. I mean, that would be super dope. Where
It's
do you see
crazy.
the future of this industry?
Just imagine wearing some glasses, some very sleek, light glasses, and being able to just turn on a button or say, "Hey, put me in my new apartment," and then it just appears, and it's in your like physical space, basically. And you're walking around and looking around and picking stuff up and interacting with it. That's where things are going. And then your voice activation system says, "Hey, do you want to teleport to the bathroom?" It's like, "Sure, yeah." And you're in the bathroom. It's crazy what's going to happen. I think a lot of companies are catching on to this. A lot of companies are preparing for this, and we're one of them.
What do you feel that you as a company or you as an individual do best? I mean, there's a reason why companies come and work with you. You obviously have competition out there. There's a reason they can go for one of those other places that maybe are less expensive, but there's a reason why they sign with you. There's a reason why people come to you for projects. What is that?
So we understand them very, 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 very well. Like we almost study our client's process even more than the market. Like we want to understand where you all are at in the process. How do we get you to your next step? And so that takes a lot of research about real estate development, a lot of research about, how they make money, because people are driven by different things, right? Real estate development can be a very profitable business, but you got to do it right. So we try to help them mitigate their risk. We try to help them save time. And that's what we're obsessed about. So all we talk about is all we think about. So that's what makes us a lot different than other visualization companies out there. They're more focused on the tech and, stuff like that. Of course, we focus on that. However, we focus more on the who, like I like to say.
Who's definitely important. Every entrepreneur, as they get really good at something, they always find something else that they can improve upon to make the customer experience better, to maybe make their organization better, to optimize their time, all these different things. What do you feel you're working on right now that's got your attention, that you're working on improving, whether it's for internally for your business or maybe for the customer experience?
Great question, man. So we want to cut our production times almost in half if possible. We're looking at some software. We're looking at developing some stuff that will actually allow us to just slash it at least in half, because we understand also that the faster we can get a product to our clients, the faster that they can get onto the next project. So that goes back to what I said about understanding our clients to the nth degree. Once we understand that, hey, you need to get these units out and sold as fast as possible so you can get onto the next project, we want to be able to shorten and condense our process to allow them to do that. So that's what we're hyper focused on right now.
Speed, dude. Speed to market is always the key there. But at the same time, technology needs to kind of take its time to get there. But we're living in a world of AI. We're living in a time where things are completely different. The other day, I was watching how the Tesla Optimus Gen 2. Have you seen that robot? It looks like an iRobot.
And he was like shooting up the car and stuff.
Dude. Okay, this thing is amazing, right? And you're looking at it like, nah, man, that's the future, but the future is here. I mentioned Free Guy, the movie, and the augmented reality, but those glasses are already here. Meta's got them, Ray-Ban's got them. Like, what? With everything moving as quickly as it is, where do you see the vision of your company going in the next couple years? How fast do you feel you're moving? What do you think you're gonna be as time goes on?
Well, I think people are going to start to adopt it more, because cutting edge technology is sharp, right? So a lot of companies are kind of hesitant, right? They don't want to get cut, or they don't want to be the first ones to get cut by the cutting edge, technology. And so we had seen a lot of market resistance at first, but now people know that this is the future. As a matter of fact, they want to have it before other developers so they can be seen as a subject matter expert, as the leader, in the marketplace. And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing mass adoption. And as that happens, there's more money that goes around in the economy that allows for more cutting edge technology to be built. So it's just a compounding effect that we see. And we've tried to get at the forefront of that. Like I said, we started back in 2019, and we've been building and building and building and building and compounding our knowledge about our clients and stuff like that.
How soon do you think the regular real estate agent will be using things like this for their listings?
Oh, it's happening now. It's happening now. So the project I just told you about, so that one's already on the market. That one's already on the market. Yeah. As of like 2 days ago.
Cool. See? Yeah. They're already diving in, man. They're already diving in. All right, Nate, dude. I mean, you're blowing my mind, man. This is where the world is heading. It feels futuristic, but the time is now. Like, this is an opportunity. If people want to reach out and find out more about how they can get properties rendered, how they can take advantage of VR or augmented reality for their real estate business or their developments, how can they do that?
So you see the link below, but also if you have any questions about augmented reality VR, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm active on there. So my social is Nate Robert-Eze. Or if you want to email me, you can email me at nate@ezeassociates.com. That's ezeassociates.com. And then that'll funnel to all the other emails and we'll get you what you need.
Dude, that's some exciting times, man. I mean, it's weird to be able to think that kind of is what's happening today. And you're like literally at the forefront. You're like, dude, this is what I do every single day. This is how I map things out every single day.
You know what's crazy though? Like I felt crazy when I first started. Like I was looking at the market, VR, AR supposed to grow by 39%. Annually, and people are like, we don't know if it's going to happen, but we see right now it's happening. Every day you see new stuff coming out about VR, AR, about real estate technology, prop tech, all that stuff. So at first it was like, I don't know, right? But now it's just like, it's out of there.
Now it's like, oh, I'm so glad I jumped into this space when I did. It was harder to do it back then. It's so much easier to do it now. But now you got the space and the credibility and the practice, really what it comes down to. So when anybody else comes out on the market, they might know a thing or two, but they're just not as experienced yet. And this is still in its infancy, man. I'm telling you, you talk about you started back in 2019. This is pre-pandemic. And one of the most amazing things that I think came out of the pandemic was our ability to do exactly what we're doing now. This Zoom feeling, right? This whole video chat. That was not a thing. That was not regularly accepted by everybody else. But today it's the norm. And I feel like that's where your technology is heading. It isn't the everyday thing. But you're looking at all these gamers, you're looking at all these people that are playing that stuff on a regular basis. It's not going to be long before it's the norm in that professional setting as well, dude. Absolutely. I'm excited for what you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, he's got a newsletter scrolling across the bottom. The website is www.nateroberteze.com. And make sure you guys check it out. There's a newsletter there for you guys to sign up. Follow him on social. It's just his name. Nate Robert-Eze at the end. That's how do you say that? Eze?
Eze. Yep.
Eze. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys check it out. I mean, at the end of the day, technology is going to pass us up. I know we're going to feel a little weird when you don't quite understand it, but that's why we hire the professionals who do this on a daily basis so that you don't have to figure out how to do it. You just got to implement how to sell it. And that's the bottom line. Thanks, Nate, for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.